Hello, everyone. Good evening from wherever you're watching us, and welcome back to another virtual talk brought to you by Workington Qatar. Today is the third talk as we continue our deep dive into psychological capital. In our first episode, we talked about hope. Our second episode, we talked about self efficacy. And this episode is all about resilience. And as if you've been paying attention, these all go hand in hand. There are four aspects. There's the HERO acronym. And you can't just have one without the other. And one that's always been coming up in conversation is resilience. And today we're talking about resilience. We want to know all about resilience. And I want to know the name of the cat behind you, Tijan.
She is Gretel.
Hello, buddy. He's going to be with us learning all about resilience today. So just if Farah or Tijan, if you could give us a quick recap, less than a minute. Let's try and keep it less than a minute as to, before we start talking about today's topic, which is resilience. So.
Yeah. Okay. So as you said, the last 2 weeks we have talked about the first two letters of being a hero of our psychological capital, and those were hope and self-efficacy. The first one was hope, which was the belief in the ability to persevere toward goals and find the methods or paths to reach them. And hope is being able to see that there is light in spite of all the darkness. So hope is a thinking process in which the person perceives that he or she can reach the goals, produce the routes to these goals by pathway thinking, and initiate and sustain movement along these pathways. And then we talked about self-efficacy, and it is the confidence that one can put forth effort to affect outcomes. So self-efficacy is a strength of your belief in your ability to achieve goals, okay? And this week, we will concentrate on the third letter, which is R for resilience, as you said.
Let me keep it with you, and let me ask you, what is resilience?
What is resilience? The million dollar question. So what is resilience? Actually, resilience is defined as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. It is defined as the ability to bounce back from negative emotional experiences and by flexible adaptation to the changing demands of stressful life. As much as resilience involves bouncing back from these difficult experiences, it can also involve profound personal growth. So, since there is bouncing back in the definition of resilience, we always use the bamboo tree, as a symbol of resilience because of its durability, strength, and flexibility. The bamboo tree survives in the harshest conditions, still standing tall and staying green all through the year. When a storm comes, bamboo bends with the wind. When the storm ceases, it resumes its upright position. Well, of course, if we are punched on the face or on the nose, we fell down. And resilience is being able to get up. But it is also learning from that experience and taking the precautions not to get hit on the same, place on the nose again. So resilience is also learning from your experience. And resilience is a combination of your genes, of your background, of your personal experiences. And the good news is the percentage of the effect of the genes are not that important actually. So that means you can learn the skills to become more resilient. And during the day, how many times we say to ourselves, I can't take this stress anymore. Why do I keep overreacting to such little things? Or even, is this the life I want to live? It's not going so well. So what we need is more resilience, which will give us the ability to persevere and adapt when things go wrong or not well enough. Everyone needs resilience because one thing is certain: life includes adversities. If you increase your
Totally agree
resilience,
with that.
so if you increase your resilience, you can overcome most of what life puts in your way. And with resilience, you face less stress, less depression, greater psychological well being, and more success and better relationships. It brings meaning and purpose to our lives.
And that takes us to our second question, and I'll leave it with you, Tijen. We've established now that you're not born with resilience, right? You can train and you can develop. So how can you become more resilient, and how can your character become something that is more adapt facing an adversity? How can you become more resilient? What are there any ways to learn resilience?
Definitely. I mean, you can increase your resilience muscles. You can learn from your experiences. I may summarize in 7 pillars, maybe. And the most important to me is make connections with others, be social, and ask support from them. Good relations with your family members, your friends, and others are very important. Talking, sharing your worries or happinesses with the ones you trust and love is the key for resilience. Also, accepting help and support from those who care about you and will listen to you is the key to reduce stress and increase resilience. I believe, especially during these difficult days, we are in now, like pandemic, being active in NGOs, helping others, assisting others who need help, increases your resilient muscles. The second one, avoid seeing crisis as hopeless problems. We know we cannot change everything. We know that there are some facts. For example, this situation now we are in, the pandemic fact. There will be cases for every one of us like pandemic, which would create stress, highly stressful, and we cannot avoid from them. But we can change the way we look at it, how we interpret it, how we respond to those events. What we can do, we try to see the good things in the current events, and also try to see look beyond the present and see how future circumstances will be even better. Try to see some good examples, some positive examples in which you might already feel somewhat better as you deal with difficult situations. Like the situation we are in. For example, we were traveling with Farah to customers like 100 kilometers away from us. It was nightmare, but that was the way the doing business. Now with the pandemic, we start meeting with our customers on the technical way. I mean, with Zoom or other interaction technologies. So probably just after pandemic, we will continue like this. And this is the good gain of us during the pandemic period, for example.
For sure, we get to do this. I mean, you're in Turkey now, and I'm in Doha, and we're on this platform, and we have people watching and listening. So this is a product of resilience, I guess. It's room for innovation. People still need to work, people still need to communicate, and
we cannot imagine to do
exactly.
some kind of panels like this a year ago. But now you are in Qatar, we are here, and we are doing this panel and discussing resilience. So let's try to see the good things in the situation. I mean, not everything is really negative. There are positive things inside. So,
but in order to see those, in order to see the positive things,
exactly,
an outcome of being a resilient person? Is that one of the things of being resilient? Is that why?
Yeah, exactly. And the other one is, especially again in the difficult situations, develop some realistic goals. or create some new goals for you that make you happier. Do something regularly, even if it seems like a very small achievement, no problem, that enables you to move forward to your goal. And instead of focusing on tasks that seem unachievable, ask yourself, what is the one thing I can accomplish today that helps me move to the direction I want to go? For example, I was studying Spanish a couple of years ago, and I stopped studying because of the lots of other things, urgent things that I'm doing. But it was always a kind of, a worry for me that I was forgetting it. Now I've found out Duolingo, a kind of a online training system, and each lesson takes like 5 to 10 minutes only, and I'm doing every day at least one lesson. So it makes me so happy. So find something like this. I mean, accomplish some of small accomplishments to go to your goal. The other thing is look opportunities for self-discovery and nurture a positive view of yourself. We often learn something about ourselves and may find them they grown in some respects as a result of some struggles or some losses. Many people who have experienced tragedies have reported being better in relationships, greater sense of strength, even while feeling vulnerable, increased sense of self-worth, and better appreciation of life. So, awareness of your abilities to solve problems and trusting your instinct helps to build resilience as well. For example, ask yourself, what are the milestones in my life that affected strongly myself, caused to who I am today? Even this question is, increase the awareness of yourself and understand what kind of difficulties you passed on, and you're proud of yourself.
That's a lot
Uh,
of work, though. It's easier said than done.
yeah,
Looking
these
in
are
is
not
not
difficult.
easy for everyone.
Yeah, but it's not
Yeah.
difficult as well. Optimistic view is important, being resilient. And maybe the last one, but not the least, take care of yourself. Pay attention of your own needs, your feelings. Engage with activities that you enjoy and find relaxing. Exercise regularly. I am insisting on that. Taking care of yourself help to keep your mind and body primed to deal with situations that require resilience. Uh, Maybe the last note how to build resilience is, scientists say that trial and error method works well here. You have to find the ways that are likely to work well with you as a part of your own personal strategy to build resilience. See what is good for you. Try and error.
Yeah, trial and error. The oldest trick, huh? Try it. Maybe it works. Maybe it doesn't.
It
Try
works. It
again.
doesn't work. Change your strategy.
Yeah. There's a lot of overlaps here from the last episode of self-efficacy. I mean, the taking care of yourself, mental, physical well-being also is
Yeah,
constantly recurring. It seems, it's like at the end of the day, you are the individual, right? And these are things that continue to show up when we talk about. Last time we talked about self-efficacy, small goals was a way for a leader to encourage output from their team, right? So those
exactly.
principles are there for you and are there as tools as well when you're managing a team. And
And you see the multiplying effects. I mean, if you have a strong self-efficacy, you're probably better in growing your or increasing your resilience abilities.
this is the next, it's a good segue into the next question is why does it matter? And I will ask Farah, today
Okay.
specifically in the, let's say during pandemic times or outside of pandemic times, you're always faced with adversity or challenges. So why does resilience matter?
Well, why does resilience matter? Especially, why does it matter today? So a wise man said that the only guarantee in life is probably that we will face challenges. And these days are like a proof of this statement, you know. Times are incredibly hard right now. And because of this, these days, people talk a lot about resilience and how to recognize it, how to develop it, and how why it matters in today's world and especially today's workplace. And it makes sense, you know, between a global pandemic, an economic recession, and widespread, you know, even wars and civil unrest in many parts of the world. Our collective ability to endure and bounce back is being tested, unlike anything most of us have ever seen before. And resilience matters more today because it enables us as individuals and communities to cope with the stress of the pandemic, to cope with all the other adversities we are facing. So what we can do to build up resilience right now during the pandemic is what we need to think of, and how can we build resilience to plan ahead of the future for the, you know, I don't know, maybe next crisis or maybe good days. We always need resilience. Today, learning how to deal with challenges becomes one of the master skills to live good lives, or you know, to have a good career, to have a you know, better workplace to work in. We know that it is possible not only to survive challenges, but to use them to evolve as people and find sources for meaning, for purpose, and for power. You know, Maya Angelou is somebody that I really like, and she says, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. So that is the importance of resilience in the face of challenges today, not to be reduced by what's happening. We learn the most on how to go through hard times by going through tough times. So we have the biggest opportunity at the moment, I believe. So
For
we
sure.
can lighten the load on the negative side of life by reducing sources of stress. And we can load up on the positive side of resilience scale by piling on positive experiences, especially through responsive relationships. We can still maintain and encourage connections with family and friends, even though we are all required to, you know, maintain physical distance. It's important to call the people we care about, protect our emotional well-being, and manage the stress of living through these challenging times. We see an example of this during our training programs with Tijan. Even though people cannot get together in a room, as she said before, they really bond through Zoom or other online platforms and build solid friendships with their colleagues from all over the world. And they say they even had, you know, better friends than they ever had before during these, you know, training programs. And they are in deep relationship with them. They connect with them, and it helps them through this pandemic. So you can also move the fulcrum, move the, you know, tipping point of the scale and make it easier for the scale to tip toward positive outcomes by working on your core skills. All of us need executive function and self-regulation skills to manage the daily life, but stress makes it more difficult to use the skills we have at the moment. So during the pandemic, during these hard days, we need these core skills for things like, you know, planning and managing the work from home, managing our, you know, life in the house, managing how we, you know, connect with our children. So it is important. It is really it really matters today.
Idea that the first thing that comes to me is like these connections and the ability for people to make these connections digitally today as a support function. And one of the first things that Tijan said on how to become more resilient is to make these connections. So having a support group of people who are like-minded or that challenge you, or you just need to put yourself out there. And if we are to measure? Can you measure your own resilience without this trial and error? I mean, you don't want to put yourself in the face of adversity to know that you failed and then keep doing that and then never bouncing back. Is that a risk? Or is there a way to measure and understand how much of a resilient person you are?
Yeah. In fact, we told how we can build resilience. There are some, tricks, some skills you can develop. But today, if you want to understand how resilient you are, I can give some tips. For example, if you hold yourself accountable, believe yourself that you can handle current problems, then you have a good muscles of resilience. I mean, this is maybe the most important. You believe yourself. This is self-efficacy. You see, I mean, if your self-efficacy is high, then you are probably good also in resilience. If you are resilient, usually you don't blame others or outside forces for problems. Usually ask yourself, how can I change this? What can I do for this? If you are not afraid to ask help from others, again, this shows high resilience. Usually people don't ask help and try to fix the problems even if they don't have enough expertise. Asking people help is really important, and this is also a good sign. Another thing, if you don't compare yourself to others and only concentrate on your own progress, this is also a good sign. If you accept you can't plan everything, you can't change everything, this is also a good sign. What else, Farah? If you take care of yourself, I mean, if you are, doing regular exercise, because doing regular exercise also needs resilience. I mean, it's not easy really to go out every day and do exercise. Is also needs a resilience. Having hobbies and create quality time. If you are doing this, again, your resilient muscles are strong. Is there anything else, Farah?
I have a question about comparing yourself to others. That is, you have to be kind of a bit more conscious and aware of who you're comparing yourself to. I mean, if the idea is I'm resilient because I'm well off and I'm better in, than people who are less fortunate or people who are, if you're always going to compare yourself, like this comparison, it's not a generic comparison, is it? There's specific comparisons about something that you're looking to do. So if it's your business or your health or if we're setting these goals for understanding how resilient we are, exercise might be one thing, but you're not going to compare yourself in boxing to Mike Tyson or to, like if you're starting today, you're not going to compare, if you want to take up tennis, you're not going to compare yourself to Djokovic. Like it's not, where is the realm of comparison? How do you know who to compare yourself to and when not to? Because sometimes, if you have high ambition and it's unrealistic, you will fail quite quickly and you will go back into a state of stagnation and depression, which you probably will reduce your self-efficacy and resilience. So
Exactly.
how do you compare and when, like how, the comparison part? Just if you have some tips on that.
Yeah, maybe, we talk about setting scalable goals and achievable goals. This is also something that you mentioned. I mean, being Mike Tyson is not an achievable goal. But yeah.
Other people who might,
Having smart goals, having achievable goals is something that we should keep in mind. The other one is really, I mean, you can have role models, but that's not wrong. I mean, that is also missing maybe in the environment. Having role models and being like them, you have to increase your self-efficacy, your skills to achieve that goal. So if you are aware of that, there is no problem. I mean, then you should start doing one by one, maybe small achievements to have the skills that you can reach the goal.
I understand, but there's like finding, if you were to be happy, to increase your happiness. I mean, psychologically, if you compare it's just this idea of comparison, because I feel like comparing yourself to something that's, that you think, I mean, you're kind of stuck in yourself sometimes if you're comparing to the wrong things.
And
Or
there are many cases like this because of the social media. I mean, you see many people like you having this and those and going there, and this is really, I mean, important point. That's why having role models, I mean, putting a goal to reach, which is a smart reach, but without comparing you with the others that you can see in the social media or close friends, is important. And aware of what skills you need to achieve that goal, and try to set the goals to achieve this final goal, let me say. Yeah, social media doesn't help on that.
Yeah, this is one of the next question, Farah, would be what could be some of the things that take you out of increasing your resilience? And I think this might be one of them, right? Is the comparison to unrealistic, and is
Yeah,
that one of the things that are like a trap you get trapped into
yeah,
being
definitely.
resilient?
Definitely. It's one of the thinking traps that you can find yourself in,
Okay.
just comparing yourself and, especially if you are very active in the social media, comparing yourself to some things that are not real. It's good to be with friends. It's good to connect from all and every using communication ways to connect with friends, with the people like you take as role models. But you got to be thinking. You got to be careful not to fail, not to get into trap by comparing yourself with everyone. So that's one of them, as you say. And another one is probably, thinking when we talk about resilience, it is so important to understand that the thinking traps we found ourselves in is really important and really hurts our resilience muscles. And most of us, find ourselves in this trap at one time or another. And but we do fall into the same traps most of the time. So there are two, three, traps that we find ourselves in. So one of them is one of the very common one is jumping into conclusions very quickly, and this is a trap of making assumptions without the relevant data. And intuition is a good thing, and gut feelings we get about the situation, especially those around danger, are very valuable because it protects us. But most of the intuitions we have do not require immediate action. So most intuitions, just like assumptions, we can benefit from gathering more information in that case. So by all means, take the intuitions seriously, but treat them as theories, not facts. We all climb the ladder of inference quite fast. It describes the thinking process that we go through without really realizing it to get from a fact to a decision or to an action. When we talk about ladder of inference, we're talking about in the first step is we see some reality, some facts, some observable data. Like, for example, we have a meeting with a colleague, but he doesn't show. He doesn't come to our meeting. He postpones our meeting. And then in the second step, we select some reality from that event. We say, okay, this colleague of mine or this my teammate have rescheduled our meetings for the last 3 weeks. So, but he does have some meetings with others, but he doesn't meet with me. And then we interpret that reality. We say, what's happening? He's meeting others and he's not meeting me. So what's going on? And then from that, we make some assumptions very quickly.
Mm.
So he wouldn't reschedule important meetings. So he thinks that I'm not important. So he reschedules my meetings. And then I uh, directly dive into a conclusion. He doesn't value our meetings. He doesn't value me. Then we develop some beliefs. We say he doesn't value my contributions, and I don't want to work with someone who doesn't value my contributions. And actually, we even take actions. We say, okay, I'm not going to work with this teammate again, or I will even move to another team. If it's our manager, for example, we say, okay, maybe I should even shouldn't work in this company because they don't value me here.
Mm.
So just take a deep breath, take some time before, climbing that ladder very quickly.
I think
And so,
patience is one thing that hasn't been mentioned yet, but it's sometimes you can't help it. I mean, if you're gonna keep knocking on this guy in your team for 3 weeks and he keeps ignoring you, there has to be some kind of confrontation, no?
yeah, yeah,
So
just be careful that, understand the steps of the ladder. Understand that there are some reality, there are some facts, but am I, selecting from that reality before I give my decision? Or it may be just, our my teammate is having a very hard time because something is happening at home. So that's the reason that he is postponing our meeting. So just, very quickly, do not jump into the conclusion and take action. So that's one of the traps. Another one, maybe the tunnel vision. Sometimes we have tunnel vision. We do not, look 360 degrees, but we look like we are in a tunnel. And another one is magnifying some things and minimizing the others. People, most people who magnify the negatives and minimize the positives in their
mm,
lives, are not aware that they are in a thinking trap. They just magnify some events and then minimizes the others. So this is another one. Personalizing is another one. It is a reflex tendency to attribute problems to your own doing. In many cases, we think that if we attribute the cause of the problem to ourselves, then we grant ourselves the power to solve it. But
that's not
resilience
always the
comes,
case.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Resilience comes when you believe that you have the power to control the events in your life, the power to change what needs changing, and the belief is accurate. Or maybe not personalizing, but externalizing. We say, no, this is not my fault. This is all the others. This is happening because of all the others. And we overgeneralize as a trap. We say we can, mind read, I know what he's thinking. He's not really very positive about me. We think that we are mind reading. We can be, emotional reasoning. So we do fall into these traps, and what we need is just, avoid those to be more resilient.
And is one of the is being a lot more self-aware while these things are happening. Like sometimes these things are happening to you, whether it's declining a deal or not getting the meeting that you want, and if you're in a business or in a relationship, personal life, these adverse, things are happening, challenges are happening,
Mhm.
and if you're, if you're not aware of how you're behaving during, is that one of the things that is gonna help, get you back into the cycle, and you're just in a cycle of
Definitely.
self doubt and never
Yeah.
really growing your resilience and developing to kind of overcome.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of the things, and being self-aware. And another one is to slow down maybe a little bit. Ask yourself what's happening just before jumping into the conclusion. Slow down a bit. Be
Mm.
aware of yourself. Just take a helicopter view of yourself. Ask yourself what's happening. What's the big picture? what is my part in this big picture? Yeah, you can just try to see the big picture and not to narrow the situation. There are many things that you can ask yourself to, overcome the thinking traps.
And at the risk of sounding like I didn't pay attention to anything that you just said, what are there? Is there any way to grow your resilience? Is there any ways that are skills to, become more resilient? Can you put
Maybe some
yourself in the
practical,
fit? Maybe
some,
exercising every day.
that's one thing.
That is one answer you definitely will get from Tijan.
It helps me a lot. I have to put that. I mean, during the difficult times, having the exercise is helping me a lot. I mean, this is
For
definitely
sure.
a very practical way how to increase your happiness level and increase your resilience to other things that you will face
Is
some
walking
difficulties.
exercise?
Exactly.
Is it? Does that count?
Yeah, I'm just half an hour, 40 minutes walking is also good. It starts, hormones are activated and endorphin, serotonin. It's not only good for your body.
Yeah.
All these hormones make you happier and innovative and more good on relations. So it definitely helps on your resilience. I mean,
Unless you're
once you,
someone who's walking always angry. You know those
yeah,
people who's always
you're angry.
you always
Why?
there's people who are walking who but they just look miserable, but they're walking. They just
But at the
I don't
end,
think that increases their their happiness and problem solving. I think walking is not working for them.
no,
So
it
what are some
definitely
other skills?
walking is also helping. I mean, you will definitely help your hormones get activated with that, even
All
with
right.
walking.
All right.
One practical thing would be calming and focusing yourself. And as Farah said, maybe taking a deep breath is helping. There are lots of applications on iPhones that practice you on breathing practices. So
Yes.
you can take one of them, load one of them, and you can use that. But really, the breath practices or body practices are helping a lot. Mindfulness helping a lot. But one thing is the stress management. This is also important because when we get stressed, even with small things like traffic, like your child doesn't do your homework, this is creating kind of a burnout, kind of emotions that they are out of control. When there is a stress occurred, our mind goes out and creates more anxiety, and when the anxiety increases, then we start worrying about it. This creates more stress. It is like a vicious circle. When you start, seeing not only one problem, then you start seeing multiple problems. During our workshops, we call it like instead of seeing one dog, you start seeing 9 dogs. Think about a child, for example, doing not his homework, not doing his homework at a specific night. You start thinking that this child is lazy and give more pressure on your child. And then your child starts getting more stress. And so your stress level increases, and then start worrying about the child because next day he will go to school and his teacher gets angry with him, and their friends maybe start making jokes about him, and then you start thinking that even if he is lazy, then he will not be successful on a good high school and then university, and maybe his career will be affected. So starting from a specific night that the child doesn't want to make his homework, we came to a point that he will not have a good career. I mean, really, we are thinking
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being focused on the main problem, seeing that the child at that night doesn't want to do homework. Why? Maybe he's sick. Maybe he's so tired. Maybe he's hungry. Maybe he's a
He just
problem
doesn't feel
because
like it on that night. Maybe Tuesday is his day. He wants to chill and play Call of Duty or FIFA,
Yeah.
whatever.
so try to fix the problem. A specific problem is important. So focusing on the real problem will help definitely. Another
There's a lot of trauma coming back up when you talk about homework. I was not about I remember being talking about math, and they made it seem like it was just I'm not going to take too much time telling it, but the way it was, the approach was like, even I was around 9 years old. I still remember it because it was so bad. It made me feel like the rest of my life was over because I didn't know how to solve this math problem.
yeah.
And it was just like, you know what? I forget about it. And then I met another teacher, and he was much better and pretty good at math now.
Yeah, that is the issue. I mean, to try to understand the real problem and try to fix that real problem is important. I mean, I have two sons, and we face the similar arguments, similar stress most of their education time. So it's very typical tragedy of the family. But instead of focusing on and we start hating maths, we start hating physics. No, but if we can see the real problem and how can we fix it, then things will go much easier. The other tool maybe is the real-time resilience. We call it real-time resilience. It's the tool where there is a situation that matters to you and you feel stressed and lose control on emotions. Think about counterproductive beliefs about the solution and find positive perspectives. It's being, proactive instead of reactive. Like traffic jam, for example. When you are in traffic jam, let's say that we go to a customer with Farah. Farah is there and I'm late. I start thinking, wow, now the customer will think bad about me. And, then I will find difficulty to find the place, and I will be even late, more late to that appointment. Instead of that, see without having this problem, see the counterproductive beliefs and find some solutions for that. For example, the counterproductive belief is, customer will not have an positive opinion about me. Then a counter argument would be, no, they know me and they know my abilities. Being late is not an important problem for them. So it's kind of, find a proactive belief on that.
Trust that Farah is there and she's doing a good job until you get there. She'll take care of it until I get out of this.
I start thinking that I can do it during I'm driving. No problem. Today there are enough technological facilities that I can do it even without going there. So these are the things we are teaching all these tools during our workshops. It's not easy to tell all these skills, but this is very simple but very, very helpful skill for building resilience. Again, as I said, being connected to others is important. Even in all these pandemic times, as Farah said, you have to, force yourself to call your friends, to call your families, to be contacted with them. It will help, and very easy. There is nothing wrong, and there is nothing that you cannot do. You can do it easily.
Yeah, but sometimes it stops you. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's something there where you want to talk to your brother, but you're like, you know what? I'm not calling. I'm not gonna. If he wants to call me, he'll call me. I'm not gonna talk to this guy.
But when you call
those things that stop the action, those thoughts, those drivers, whatever you want to call them, that it's like, are you bargaining and negotiating with yourself constantly? Because that can become overwhelming if you're trying to kind of think always about the, until it becomes, is it like, are we aiming to get to a point where this is our standard and that we're not talking about, like you said, the counterproductive thinking? We're looking at the good side always, rather than going into the deep, dark, bad things like, oh, he doesn't do his homework, then he's not going to have a career. You know,
Exactly.
is it just that training ourselves that, okay, I'll call him, he didn't answer, it's all good, he's probably busy. You know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but one of them is that, and the other one is also think about, as we said, think about the big picture. What's important here?
Yeah.
Is it that my son is doing his homework, or is it my relation with my son? We always say to the parents, do not sacrifice your relation because of the homework or lessons with your family.
Mm.
So think about the big pictures. Try to concentrate on the big picture and try to see what you want to achieve. Maybe it's for you. It may be important to concentrate on the lesson, but just understand that what's important. And always, always, always get your strength from the relationships, because people are good for people. And that's
Yeah.
probably what we're missing at the moment the most.
That's why we have to use the facilities, technology, to still keep connecting with our friends, colleagues. And this is really very important. We have to spend some effort to do that. Sometimes, yes, we are too lazy to do that. We are expecting the other side, as you said, call us, but do it. Do it for yourself. And also being able to appreciate others and use humor.
And yourself, yeah.
Yeah, it's very important. I mean, just thank to your mother, your spouse, for the good dinner. I mean, thanking people and thanking the nature being there with being healthy. These are very important. And humor is also important. Laughter may have healing powers.
Yeah, I don't know
And
anything about that.
I'm sure. And if you are not feeling well, just watch a funny movie and laugh. I mean, this is even good for,
Yeah,
good
for
skill.
sure. For sure.
And at the beginning, as you said, take care of yourself, your diet, your exercise, etc. These are things that you can easily do. I mean, there is nothing you can you stop. I mean, nothing that you can that
Yeah,
stops you.
you say that, but
Yeah.
then you're on Instagram, and every time you look down from one post to the next, there's a burger, and then there's a pizza, and then there's a turkey, and then there's an app that tells you we can deliver it to you in 20 minutes. So you buy, and then you get a nice. It's 2 a.m. and you really shouldn't be eating a burger, but it's there.
If you do exercise regularly,
Uh,
then you can eat anything you want. This is one of the,
that's it.
for
You
example,
balance. Back to exercise.
yeah, this is the motivation for me. I mean, if you do, for example, 2 hours, 3 hours biking, then I deserve a very strong, very nice breakfast. This is one of the
True.
really motivating
True.
a goal for me there.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Ahmad, you can understand Tijan's values when she's talking. Her value about health and sports and being active is so high, and so it is very good for her and for her resilience to be active, to exercise every day. So the one thing that we can take maybe out of this is be aware of your values and try to live them in this tough times, because if we get great power from our values. For example, during this time, like Tijan's exercise, I took a lot of time to read more, because constantly is a value for me, and I'm quite happy that I could honor that during this tough time. I had some more time because I'm not traveling all over Istanbul in that crazy traffic every day. So I have at
It is
least two
crazy
more.
traffic. For those who have not been to Istanbul,
Yeah.
oh my
Yeah.
God,
You know,
it is
one meeting takes almost half a day. I mean,
Woo!
that was
Ridiculous.
the case.
I remember I was going from Esenyurt to Bebek.
Oh,
It took me 4 hours and
it
20 minutes.
does. It does.
I wanted to kill someone. I was not very resilient in that time. You know, I was not very self-aware. I was in prison. It's difficult, you know. And the guy who's driving, I can't talk to him. He doesn't speak English. So I'm sitting there just like I can't have a conversation, and you know, and I know that distance, like on a good day, it was like 45-minute drive. It's not that
Yes.
long, you know. So yeah, I mean, in practice, there's theory and then there's practice, and I think if we want to be a bit more resilient, we need to be a bit more aware of ourselves in these situations. And
What you could do there, if there is no way to escape that, you have to accept it,
oh
and
no,
then
I left the car. I was just like,
oh,
I'm
you
not
left
doing
the
this.
car.
I'm
Yeah.
going for a walk. Meet me like
Yeah,
2 kilometers later because I will
yeah.
kill someone if I don't leave the car. And
No, you found a solution. That's good.
That's good. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it was the guy in front of me left his car, so I was like, I guess I'm not driving, so I'll leave anyway. You know, it was
There are
inspired by another angry driver.
But there are cases in Istanbul that you really stuck when you're driving,
Yeah,
so you cannot leave the car.
yeah,
But what you can do, you can put something that you wish to listen, you wish to learn, and continue doing that. At least you gained something during that. I mean, maybe learn Spanish or learn foreign language or a YouTube video
yeah.
that you want to watch. So find some alternatives that you enjoy or you make the time valuable for you.
Lovely. I think we're going very close towards the end, so if we have any questions from our audience, please ask them in the comment section. Ah, wow, that was quick. You mentioned that being connected with friends and family helps build resilience. What if you are an introvert? Is it more difficult to build your resilience if that is the case?
Well, I think the answer to this comes with this thing that we've been talking at the end. It is, think about your values. If you are introvert and your values are like, I like working alone, I stay at home, and I like it. So do that. And I do believe in, even for introverts, connecting with people helps. But if you really don't like it, just do what you value and just feed your resilience from the things that you value.
Cool.
But for happiness, definitely relations is one of the most important things. And there are major mega researches, and all these researches gave us the result that if you to be happy, you have strong relations. Even if you introvert, you have to spend some effort on that. At least a couple of close friends that you can share your feelings. I mean, this is really important. I mean, this is also self-awareness and put some effort to change it.
Great. Well, there's always someone you want to see. Thank you. Oh,
Definitely.
well, for Mega, there's always someone apparently, so that's good. And on that note, I thank you all for being here, for your time, and for everyone who's watching. We will be back same time next week with our
Yes.
final pillar with the psychological
Optimism.
capital, which is optimism.
Optimism. Which
Indeed.
is
Thank you all, and I will see you next week. And don't forget to follow Workington on social media and myself, Hamid Hamadi, and Power of Happiness. And there's all this information available on social media and online. So do get in touch and spread the love.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank
Have
you.
Next week.
See you. Bye bye.